Welcome back to the Insurance Lounge with me, Tanya.
And me, Kristy.
We're your local insurance agent out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we're here to make insurance a little less boring and way more useful for you. Our goal is to share with you what we know so that you feel more confident about your insurance, so that you can better protect your family, your home, your business, and of course, your financial future. So, with that said, Kristy, what are we talking about today?
Let's talk about the weird stuff,
Oh,
right? We've talked
man.
a lot about, the kind of common losses, fires and storm damage. Those things happen to everybody, probably at least once in your lifetime. But there are some things that, are a little less common. Things like earthquake, flood, sinkholes, system failures. And some of those things are actually pretty common in this area of the country. So we want to dig in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this, Christy. Like they seem like very strange event, but it does happen because we do get those questions and we do get those incident come up in our agencies, right? So why aren't homeowners the one policy that we all have, if we are homeowners? Why doesn't it just cover these things?
Well, you have to remember homeowners coverage is there for things that are sudden and accidental. And many of these things would be considered either a maintenance type of issue, more of a regular maintenance type of issue, deterioration of systems, of course, deterioration of foundation and things like that. Or they're just things that are sort of so unwieldy that they're just excluded from homeowners entirely. Specifically, we're thinking about earthquakes there and flood
Absolutely.
too, flood for sure.
Right. So maybe something more like really, really catastrophic, right? And really out of the norm, almost like a
Right.
specialty kind of loss.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
there are specialty coverages for it for that reason.
absolutely. So let's dive into that because we want to share with our audience today of, what you can do to kind of, prevent or plan ahead so that you don't get into these issues, or
Yep.
that if you live in an area where you know that these events might happen, that you have other ways to protect your home or yourself from a big claim. So,
Yeah.
let's start with the foundation of our home and any hardscape we have around the house, Christy. So, like
Yeah.
our porches, our front steps, driveways, things like that.
Mhm.
So, um, I'm sure that you see that in your agency because we see that in our agency because in Tennessee, this is a big thing. We don't have a lot of freezing winter, right? We don't have too many days, but they are there. It does
Yeah.
happen where we do
But
go
that's
through
kind
the
of why
freeze.
why it's a problem around here, right? Because it comes and goes. It freezes and thaws. It freezes and thaws. And that is a problem for those hardscape materials.
Absolutely. So, when that happened, that is really hard on the concrete, guys.
Yep.
Really, really hard. So now, this is one area what we encourage you to do as homeowners is, you don't have to do it all the time. I think we mentioned this in our last episode, where it's an annual maintenance. It's like once a
Yeah.
year. And if you guys ever notice, like in some cities in Tennessee, they do this on the street too, where they will seal the crack
Mhm.
everywhere right before the first frost.
Yep.
All right, guys?
Because anytime there's a crack and that water is getting into that crack and then it freezes, that expands, pushes it all further apart and then it melts and goes away and you're just left with a hole.
Yep, absolutely. And the other thing that you want to make sure around your home, or if you're buying a home, right, make sure that there is proper grading so that
Sure.
there's somewhere for water to drain away and preferably drain away from your home.
Away from your foundation, right. You really don't want to have water kind of backing up against your foundation for a number of reasons, if
Right.
you can help it. Yeah.
Right, right. And these repair or early prevention is relatively inexpensive, right, Christy?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, regular maintenance is always going to be less expensive than a big repair. So, you're talking about the difference of maybe $200 to $500 versus 5,000 or more, depending on what you really have and what you're talking about. Concrete is expensive these days.
Very expensive, guys. And so it really depends on like how fancy or how large your front porch or your front steps are. That can cost you a lot of money. So we highly encourage that you do an annual checkup on your home. Just like we go to the doctor, right? For our annual checkup,
Yeah,
we can do the
yeah.
same for our home, especially just take care of those hairline cracks that you
Mhm.
think is not a big deal, but it can cause a big deal for you and it can cost you a lot of money, especially when cracks like that are not covered under homeowners insurance.
Right.
So stay ahead of that is what we would recommend.
Exactly.
Now, what about earthquake, Kristy? So we're talking about big cracks now, right? So any
Yeah.
earth movement, seismic movement, underground shifting,
Yep.
anything like that.
So that's one of those more catastrophic events, like you mentioned, Tanya, that I mean, I don't know of any homeowners carriers around who cover damage from earthquakes in a standard homeowners policy. If you're afraid of earthquake damage, if you live and we do have a fault line, near Chattanooga where you and I are. So you really have to have a separate earthquake policy to have coverage for earthquake damage. It is not going, I can't stress this enough. Nothing about that is going to be covered in your standard homeowners policy.
Absolutely, guys. If you're working with an agent already, check with them because what I noticed is out here in Tennessee, earthquake policies is not expensive at all.
Right,
At all.
right.
It's
We
just
do
to give you
because
that
we do
peace of
have a
mind.
fault line, but it's not a major fault line. It's not super, super active. Typically, when we have little seismic events around here, it's like, oh, did you
What's
feel
that?
that? What was that kind of thing?
Right.
Not like they experienced, further out west. So it's typically not very expensive to get coverage for it. But again, it's a separate coverage because it is considered kind of a catastrophic event.
The other next catastrophic event, usually when it happens, is pretty catastrophic, is flooding.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime water comes into your home from outside, and there are some other, requirements for it to be considered a flood, right? Has to impact more than just your home, has to cover a certain, square footage of area around you. But again, it's something that is not going to be covered in your standard homeowners policy. So if you are in an area that is prone to flood, definitely want to cover yourself with a standalone flood policy. Sometimes it's going to be required, even, depending on the risk of flood and your lender and things like that. But even outside of that requirement for it, it's a good idea to cover yourself with a flood policy if you live near water that tends to rise with heavy rains. We've certainly seen a lot of that in this area recently.
Absolutely. Now, not all the water from outside come into your property or into your home is gonna be considered as flooding, guys. But again, if you live in a spot, and we see this a lot in Tennessee because we have so much rain, is sometimes, there's no proper drainage on the property. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of things that you can do. It would require some money upfront, right? But this way you can make sure that you can maintain the integrity of your foundation or your basement and your
right.
home overall. So making sure your yard is graded properly, right?
Again with grading, yep. Keep it's, some things as simple as keeping your gutters clean,
Mhm.
so that water isn't backing up that, like you said, they're around your foundation. Um, or installing French drains or pumps, if other measures, are not available to you or fail, a little bit of cost up front can save you literally thousands in the long run.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when it comes to flood policy, check with your agents. A lot of agents out there have access to the FEMA flood policy, right?
Sure,
And
yep.
you can buy some coverage on there. Sometimes it can be inexpensive, and sometimes it could be a lot. So it really depending on your area where your home is.
Right.
Okay, and what's the next weird event, Kristy?
System failures.
Oh,
So think about your water heater, your heat and air. these things that, can be quite pricey. But again, these things have to be maintained. We have to look out for rust and deterioration around fittings. You have to pay attention to any kind of leaks, coming from these things. Make sure that you're doing proper maintenance so that when a HVAC system, you're looking at probably ten to $15,000 to replace that, and probably not going, unless it's like struck by lightning, tree
Tree
falls
fell
right
off.
on
Yeah.
top of it,
Yeah.
just those, sort of age and deterioration events are not going to be covered by your homeowners. So you really want to keep up with maintenance on these systems.
Exactly, guys. So like, same thing with like a water heater, for example, right, Kristy? So like if I wake up one morning and it's busted and there's water everywhere and it's damaged my floor and my
Yeah.
furniture, that would usually be cover.
Right.
What the water damage portion is cover. Replacing your water heater itself, that's going to be on you as a homeowner, but
Right.
your home insurance would cover anything that water had damaged. So just keep that in
Correct.
mind. Now,
Sure.
but like what Kristy has mentioned, that if we don't flush a water heater every year and it just accumulate and it rust over time, and it stopped working because it's old, right? That's really is on gonna be on you as the homeowner, not the insurance. And I don't
That's
believe
right.
there's really much insurance will cover it unless you have home warranty.
Home warranty. This is a place where, yeah, where a home warranty is a nice thing, that can
Mhm.
help you cover that kind of cost. But
Yeah,
regular homeowners,
absolutely.
not going to do it.
No, no, yeah. So I can see, a lot of time our customer look for home warranty, Kristy. Let's say, for example, they have like two HVAC systems in their home, and
Sure.
things like that, where they have a slightly larger home, there's more systems and appliances, and if that gives them the peace of mind to make sure that they don't have to fork out, $1,000, $12,000, every time something happen, I get that.
Right.
So do consider that if that's going to give you that peace of mind about not having to pay so much out of pocket for maintenance, things like that.
You got it.
And then what is the last weird event? And maybe this doesn't apply everywhere, I guess, but
That maybe
for
doesn't
us.
apply everywhere, but it is actually, again, kind of common in this area around East Tennessee and North Georgia where we are,
Mm,
sinkholes.
mm.
So, this happens in a lot where there's lots of underlying limestone. I think I'm not a geologist, but I think that's what causes it. So, as that substance underneath the ground sort of, melts away, so to speak, that's not, I'm sure that's the right technical term for it, but it degrades. And so the land above it can just do exactly that, just sink. You can imagine what that can do if it happens under your driveway, under your foundation.
Absolutely. It can cost a lot. Now it does, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you can spot the early signs that there might be sinkhole issues underneath your property is if you start seeing like cracks that's getting larger on your
Right.
walls or your ceiling in your home.
Unevenness, in your floor or even like in the yard, in the driveway and
Oh, yeah.
things like that. If you're seeing depression forming, that would be a sign that maybe you want to get that checked out.
Absolutely. So if you're buying a home, guys, make sure that you're looking for that. Make sure your inspector is looking for that.
Yeah.
Spot that out if your inspector didn't see it, but I would definitely look into that. Uh,
So this kind of damage might be covered by homeowners, right? So certainly not all carriers cover damage from sinkholes. So I think this is a place where you really want to understand, is your homeowner's policy going to cover something like this? So talk to your
Absolutely.
agent. Yeah.
Yeah, talk to your agent. Make sure you have a copy of your policy, right? All carriers send you your policy in the mail now or email. It's
Right.
an easy search just to make sure you have peace of mind that it is in your policy. Now, some carrier do not automatically include that coverage, but they will let you add it on.
They might by endorsement, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So check with your agent. If you don't have it, see if you can add it on. Or if they don't offer it at all, maybe shop around for for a carrier that has that does offer that in their homeowners policy. Because
Yeah.
especially if you're in North Georgia and East Tennessee, I think all the way up to Nashville, we have so much limestones around here that is a
Yep.
huge issue. Like, I was just talking to one of my clients, and in fact, he asked about it because his wife was on the way to work, and there was just massive traffic in the road. Like, of course, Tennessee, right? Like, we don't see traffic usually.
Right.
So she's like, "What's going on?" So there was a huge sinkhole. The road practically just collapsed in the
Scary,
middle
isn't
of,
it?
yeah,
It's
in the
scary to
middle of
think
their
about.
day.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. I believe that nobody was hurt, so thankfully there was nobody there at that time. But they had to block out the whole street to.
Mhm.
I don't know how they're going to fix that, but it was pretty large.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Kristy. So we talk a lot about weir event and a lot of things that our customers have to do. But essentially, if we have to sum this all up for our customer, what are some best practice when it comes to making sure that we're prepared for uncommon events like this?
Yeah, a few things we've talked about, right? So I think first of all, you want to review your exclusions in your policy, know what you have coverage for and what you don't. And if it's something that you don't have, then look into it with an agent. Can I get coverage for sinkholes added to my policy? Do I need a flood policy? Can I get an earthquake policy? Just make sure that you understand what you have and what you don't, and fill those,
Absolutely.
fill those gaps.
Yeah, and you don't have to be insurance poor, right, Kristy? Just make sure that
Right.
it's applicable to you and that you feel comfortable with it. So if your home is, you have a creek running through your property, or you're really close to a small little river, something like that, maybe,
Yeah.
consider flood coverage because it can happen
Yeah.
during heavy rains.
Exactly. You might want to consider a home warranty for those things like system failures that can, help you have peace of mind about replacement of those things that might happen due to deterioration and age. And then finally, keep up with the maintenance. We talked about this last week in our last episode. Really, a few hours, a weekend a year a a small cost can just help you avoid lots of time and lots of money down the road.
Absolutely. And if you are working professionals or you really have no time to do that once a year, hire some help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Christy, I think that was I thought it was very helpful. So if you guys like what you heard today, please like and subscribe and share it with other friends that might be interested in learning how their insurance work and what they can do to make sure that they're protected.
You got it. And if you don't have an agent who's talking to you about these things and providing this kind of agent and you'd like to have one, feel free to call me or Tanya.
Absolutely. And until next time, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye bye.